Today I'm going to show you how you guys can set up a home lab using the Microsoft Azure Cloud Services. Now, why might you want to do this? Typically, you see other people setting up their home labs and they'll use Oracle VirtualBox or some sort of VM software to use the resources on their own device to create VMs in order to create their Active Directory, domain join devices, practice the different roles and features they can add to the server and download images and install them. But sometimes I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that don't have very good computers and cannot just use your own computer's resources to make the VMs. So this is another option. Now, some of you might be concerned that this might cost money. So if you want to try this out for free, you can just sign up for my Azure's $200 of free credit and use their services without any worry of getting charged. So let's get started and make our first virtual machine. This will be our domain controller, and we'll make a second machine which we will domain join to the domain we create. So I'll create a new resource group. I'll call it Homelab. I will call this virtual machine DC. No infrastructure, standard. I'm going with the Windows Server 2019. My username, I'll just make it DC admin. And make sure you pick a password that meets the complexity requirements. I'll use standard SSD. It makes a new virtual network. It'll assign me a private IP. Make sure port 3389 is open, otherwise you won't be able to RDP into the VM. And I'll just hit create. The deployment is complete. Let's go to the resource and click connect. Let's go and click connect. Download the RDP file. Open it. Connect. And put in the password that we just made for the admin account. Yes. We will allow our PC to be discoverable by other PCs and devices on this network. Yes. Now we just need to wait some moments for Server Manager to finish its initialization process. After that, we will install Active Directory and domain services on this server and all the features. We'll go to Manage, Add Roles and Features, and we'll click Next. We'll select Role-Based or Feature-Based Installation. It'll be installed on our current device, the DC. We will select Active Directory Domain Services, Add Features, Next. These are the features that automatically get selected when we select the Active Directory and Domain Services role in that previous page. So all we need to do is click Next, Next, Install. This will take some moments, and then we will promote this server to a domain controller. Now remember guys, a domain controller is a server in a Windows network that manages and enforces security policies, user authentication, and access to resources within a domain. It uses Active Directory to store data about users, computers, and other resources, enabling centralized management of network resources. Next, we'll click Promote this server to a domain controller. We will add a new forest. A forest in Active Directory is like the overall organization of a network. It's the biggest grouping that can include one or more smaller groups called domains, and these domains work together, share information, and follow the same rules. So think of a forest as a large family with multiple branches, aka domains, all connected and able to help each other when needed. My root domain name, I will choose the name homelab.local. Here, all we must do is type the directory services restore mode password. So choose a password. We don't need to specify any DNS delegation options. The NetBIOS domain name will populate itself based off of the new forest we created. As you can see, it placed Homelab by itself, which was the first part in the home name.local name that I chose. We click next. Next. All the prerequisite checks have passed successfully. I will click install to begin the installation. While the domain controller is restarting, I will make my node 1 virtual machine. I'll go to home, virtual machine, click create, new Azure virtual machine. I'll add it to the Homelab resource group. I will call it node 1. No infrastructure redundancy. Yeah, that's what I want. It's going to be having the Windows Server 2019 data center OS image. This size is fine. I will set up my admin account, node 1 admin. Let's see. Make sure that port 338 is open, otherwise you won't be able to RDP into the VM. Go to disks. I pick standard SSD. Click next. Now this is a big deal, guys. Make sure that it does not create a new virtual network. Otherwise, you won't be able to domain join node 1. So if we just quickly go to home and we go to our Homelab resource group, go to our domain controller, we see that it is in the the virtual network it is in is called DCVNet. So make sure your node 1 goes into DCVNet. Otherwise, you won't be able to, the two VMs won't be able to find each other, and most importantly, you will not be able to, the domain joining process is much more complicated. So it must be, check your virtual network of your domain controller VM we just made and make sure node 1 is in the same virtual network. The rest, nothing needs to be changed. It'll get a new public IP, allow port 3389. Okay, management, monitoring. Something failed here. Oh. Click create. that's creating. Let me try connecting back to my domain controller. My deployment for node 1 is finished. We'll go to the resource, click connect, download the RDP file, and we'll go and connect to node 1. My RDP files end up in my downloads folder. Click connect. Enter your admin account password. Click yes. So now the next step of this tutorial will be we're going to domain join node 1 to the domain we just created on our domain controller. So we'll click yes. We want this device to be discoverable by other PCs on this network. Minimize this, go to our domain controller. We can see the Active Directory and domain name services under our dashboard. If we go to the start menu, we can see we got a couple extra new Windows administrative tools. We got Active Directory Administrative Center. We got Active Directory Users and Computers. So this is like the big one for help desk, where you learn how to manage users and change passwords, manage privileges, manage different devices and computers. And node 1 is going to be added here. So we also got the Group Policy Management Center. That's another big application that got added right here, Group Policy Management. If we go to File Explorer and we go to this PC and we go to Properties, we'll be able to see that it is in the home. This device is now part of the homelab.local domain, and its full computer name is dc.homelab.local. It is no longer part of the work group. It is part of this domain now. If we open command prompt and we ping node 1, as you can see, it will not be able to talk to node 1, but this is okay. We're about to reconfigure node 1 so that they can find each other. So next we will do ipconfig, and that'll give us the private IP that we need for the next steps we're about to do. So we'll go to node 1. We'll go to control panel. View network status and tasks. Change adapter settings. Go to properties. Now before I do this next step, open your command prompt on your node 1. Do ipconfig. So this is, I'm on node 1. So do ipconfig here. So the private IP here is 10.0.0.5. So that's important, guys. So we need to open this up, and we're going to reconfigure the properties for IPv4. Go to properties. Now the preferred DNS server will be the IP address of our domain controller. So in this case, remember guys, I went to domain controller, I did ipconfig, and we see the IP address of our domain controller. The private IP is 10.0.0.4. Now once I point once I tell my node 1 that its DNS server is this, it'll be able to talk to it, and you'll see what I mean. So preferred DNS server 10.0.0.4. Alternate DNS server will just be 8.8.8.8, which is Google's DNS. So next we'll just configure the following IP address. So the IP address will be 10.0.0.5, which is the current private IP of this device. Subnet mask will be 255, 255, 255, and 0, and the default gateway will be 10.0.0.1. So I just put the other details that come up when I put ipconfig, the already configured details, 10.0.0.5, subnet mask 255, 255, 255, 0, and the same default gateway. So we're just going to click OK, and when we do, this is going to crash the server because we reconfigured the IP address settings while logged into the server. So on the back end, that needs to be updated on the virtual machine in Azure's data center. So yes, we're not able to connect. We need to cancel and re-download the RDP file, but that's fine. It'll just take a moment. So we'll go back to node 1. Just wait a couple minutes and then we'll just try connecting again. So I'll go ahead and click connect. I'll download the RDP file. Go to my downloads, connect, enter my password. So if we go to File Explorer and we go to this PC, go to Properties. And currently you can see Node 1 is within a work group. Now we're going to change this. We'll just go to Change Settings. We will change this, and instead of being in a work group, we want it to be part of the domain, homelab.local. We'll click OK. Now it'll ask to enter some admin credentials in order to enter the domain and be part of the domain. So you just enter the admin credentials for your domain controller. So we'll just put DC admin, enter the password, click OK. Now this device is part of the homelab.local domain and will need to be restarted. Click OK, click close, click restart now. Now give that some moments to restart. While that's restarting, I just want to show you that if you go to the domain controller right now, so I'll just close this and more choices. So now when you log in, you can log in and specify the domain homelab.local as your domain before you log in. Before, you were just putting in your work group kind of private user account details, but now you can enter the domain and then put the user. And this is typically how it will look like when you're logging into work laptops in the work environment. So see, you're able to log in like this now. And now that the other device got domain joined, I can log in. Now that device is part of the domain and is basically now going to inherit all the policies and privileges and is under the control of the homelab.local domain, so we can have better control over it and make it easier to manage, typically within the company, which is better for security. Now I will be able to log in using if I go to node 1. Now I'm not going to use this node 1 admin account. That's a private account. That's a local account on that device. I can log into it and configure it using the domain controller account. So we can go homelab.local/dc admin and that shows that this count is domain joined. So we're going to click yes. Since I'm now able to log in using my domain account, my domain controller admin account, that proves that this computer is domain joined. We can go to properties. We can go to this PC and go to properties, and we can see that it is now part of the homelab.local and node1 homelab.local. So you can almost think of this as like a computer's family name. So the same way you have a last name, this computer's last name is homelab.local. We can go to command prompt. We can do who am I, fully qualified domain name. I put the slash the wrong way. So CNAME is DC admin, and we could see we're in the Homelab. So as you can see, we're the DC admin and we are in the homelab.local domain. We can ping the domain controller and get the response. Before, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And we can also do that from the domain controller. We can ping node 1. Okay, the reason why I was not able to ping node 1 is the firewall was blocking the connection between these two devices. So I turned off the domain network firewall. So now they're able to talk to each other. Another cool thing we'll be able to see is if we go to Active Directory users and computers and we refresh this, we'll see node 1 is added here. Very cool. So now we can manage this node 1 computer all from our domain controller server, and that is the power of the Active Directory. That is the power of the domain controller. As a company, we want to be able to manage our devices in an easy way in order to enforce policies and maximize the security of the devices within the company. We don't want any sort of risks. We don't want any sort of loose ends, vulnerabilities. That's where Active Directory comes in. We come in, we're able to have better control over our devices, enforce policies, and make sure that all of the company devices are under the highest level of security that we can possibly enforce onto them, so that no confidential information gets leaked. There's no viruses installed on the laptops. Now you guys can practice your Active Directory skills. You guys can you guys see how networks are set up within companies, and all these skills are extremely important for IT workers when you enter the workplace. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, and please subscribe.